Welcome back to the second part of this tutorial. I'm very sorry that it took so long, but I had to do some things in real life, so I kind of had to take a little break. Now, since I'm from Germany, I have actually decided to switch most of this tutorial from the UK over to Germany, but obviously everything we talked about previously still applies. Now, last time we talked about the layout of our GUI. Today we will actually talk about track laying. How do you actually lay tracks? Now, for this, obviously, we will need a little example line. What line will we choose? Well, there are a couple of lines we could choose, realistically. But, let me have a think about this. It obviously should be a pretty short line, and it should be pretty isolated, just so you can, grasp the basics of it. Okay, so I think we will take this one because it's pretty isolated. Where's the station? Here it is. So, in real life, here, this is where the RB36 shuttles between Duisburg-Ruhrort and Oberhausen Hauptbahnhof. We will not be building Oberhausen Hauptbahnhof this episode, but we will build all the way to here. And this will basically already tell you most of what you need to know about track laying. As already said, there's tangent mode, there's point mode. No, I really don't build with point mode, never should you, really. I don't really know anybody who does that anymore. So we will just focus on tangent mode. But if you ever want an example of the one thing point mode is actually good for, let's say I want a curve, right? Yeah, curves in point mode actually look a lot better than they do in tangent mode. So theoretically you could switch between the two modes, but the problem is if you do that, yeah, that happens. Obviously I think you can change this, yeah. The problem is you can't really change out from tangent mode to point mode easily. It kind of bugs out all the time, which is why I recommend you stay on tangent mode, because except for building curves, tangent mode is always better. Now, already said, odd continuously append track segments, you should always just have that turned on. If you just press escape, it will I need a new keyboard. My escape key, I think at this point, is nearly entirely broken. Yeah, but normally if you would press escape, it would allow you to exit the building mode. This one, always have it turned on by default. This allows you to build switches. If you turn it off, you can do some fancier things without any collisions or the game trying to build a switch. But that is for a later time. This one, I turn it off. You can also turn it on. Essentially what it means is, if you do this, it will automatically keep it straight, and only if you press Control it will disable it. And well, if you turn it off, this is the default. Oh my god, I think my key, my escape key has finally given up. The default is not have any guide, and if you press Control you have the guide back. So that's just my preferred setting, but it really makes no difference. So obviously you build track by clicking and dragging it. Now, if you were to be very efficient, you could say that you always build straight track segments, like so, and then just connect up these straight track segments using curves. Essentially, tangent mode is kind of point and click, so you just point it at the overlay mode, which I would highly recommend you install if you want to build realistically, so follow real track alignments. You should install the show existing railways mod in the Steam Workshop. You should never play this game unmodded. It's just a pain and doesn't really serve any purpose whatsoever. Now, as you can see, we've now built our first piece of track. Now, depending on how realistic you want to be and how sloppy you want your save to be, like, this is fine, but there's something other major we need to talk about: track speeds. A speed overlay I'd recommend for everyone is this one, OpenWareWare Map Speed Overlay. This essentially looks exactly one-to-one like the OpenWareWare Map Speed Overlay from OpenWareWare Map, which is nice if you're doing realistic, real speed limits. You'll actually see them have the correct color, like on OpenWareWare Map. Here we're just gonna wing it. Now, most of the time, inside of stations, the terminated trains are pretty slow, so we put this at 30 kilometers per hour. Now, oh yeah, so I kind of forgot to explain one. So obviously, any track type has an inherent speed. For example, this is 160 kilometers per hour. This is 350 kilometers per hour. Now, as you can see here, yeah, this will be 160 in speed. But here in the curve, for example, it dips down to 111, 132, 160, 160. This is what you'd call inconsistent speed limits. You can fix that by just, for example, selecting this curve, and then you can go to custom max speed. So, important, you cannot put the speed higher than the actual speed rating of the track. So if I do this, it doesn't work because it's higher than 160. But if I now put 80, which we are going to do, now you can see that the speed limit for this entire track is 80 kilometers per hour. And that's essentially how you can control the speed of your network with only using one track type. I know there are some people who just use the different textured tracks from their track pack, but really in the end that ends up looking like a mess most of the time, which is why I thoroughly wouldn't recommend that. Oh, yeah, so I know what I did wrong here. I just clicked the other button. Yeah. So, now that we've limited our speed, and when building tracks, I would always recommend to leave the speed overlay on if you want to go that closely. Because it just is very neat. It shows you what is what while you're building, and obviously you can also see if this would dip below 100 kilometers per hour again, we could obviously adjust this again. This is just a branch line, which is why this doesn't get that much speed. Like, we won't go above 100 kilometers per hour. Now, here we have arrived. I really can't do this that way, though. Okay. So, obviously, building tracks, we will get to this one later, but first of all we need to talk about the other basics. Building tracks is one thing, building stations is another. Now, a station is obviously where a train can stop. The easiest part to build a train, to build a station, and I guess if you want your save to just go quickly and you don't want to spend much time on constructing stations, you would use this tab, but we won't use it. Because I also never do. Now, two options to build a station. Either you follow the real platform, so for example, this right here would be the real platform for Duisburg Hauptbahnhof, or you extend it. In our case, we will extend platforms. The minimum length of a platform on the save should be 120 meters. So we take out the measuring tool, we take it out by pressing O, and we measure 120 meters, like so. Now we press M, and now we can select these track segments. And now we press promote into a new station. This is your friend. You will learn to love this, it loves you back. Promote tracks into a new station. Now, we've created a station. Theoretically, this is all you need to do. You can stop a train here, this is fully operational. But it looks kind of shitty. I mean, if you look at it in the view, it's just a track. It's literally just a track. There's nothing there. Now the first thing we do is we change the name. Obviously, this is a Duisburg. Oh, what? So, that's done. Next thing we have to do, we go into here. This is all the building tiles we've talked about previously, and you can download platform mods from the workshop. Now, what I tend to use, because it's kind of standardized, and many people have agreed to use this one, is where is it? Yeah, so that's the problem when you have a lot of mods installed. You often don't find the things you actually search for quickly. This one, Aviator Dutch Platform Edge. You need the edge and you need the filler. Once again, you can favorite it over this button and then it will appear in your hotbar. Now, you can just click and drag and this spawns in a platform. And now, what you do is, you take this one, locked to track, and now you say pick track. This will allow you to lock the platform to the track. And now, if the platform happens to end up on the wrong side of the track, because obviously the platform is on the other side here, you press F. And F basically inverts these numbers and flips the platform or whatever you have selected, if it has a constraint to it. Now, you can just copy this platform, paste it, and apply it to the entire length of this. Then, for example, here you can see there's a little protrusion, so we can do that. Then we add something like this, and yeah, now we have a pretty nice looking station, I would say. Yeah, so, and that's the way you build kind of good looking stations. Obviously, you can deco them, but let me be honest, I am not the expert in decoing. I'm not good at it. But yeah, this, if you're quick at it, takes you like 1 minute to build. So it really isn't that much of a hassle. Now, we get back to here. And here we can see another type of station already. So, this is a Duisburg-Meiderich Süd. I know this because I'm from this area. Believe it or not. Now, first, we build the tracks. I mean, building tracks kind of is just pointing and clicking things. Now, here we are. And we have completed the next section that we need for the station. Now, once again, we take out our measuring tool and we have a look. Is it 120 long? Yes. So we can just do this, and then actually we can take this tool, the P tool, and just cut the tracks in the section where we need it, like so. Now, I think it's time to talk about the different types of stations that we have. And for this we will actually use this Gen 5 station just for example purposes. The easiest type of station is on a double track line. This one. Actually, the easiest type of station would probably be a station, single platform, single track. Then, obviously, double track. The thing you know from real life. Trains going in one direction. So, something like this. This would be the simplest station realistically you would want to use in most cases. Now, this kind of is a station like this, right here. Just that instead of it being the platforms being on the outside, they are on the inside. This is an island platform station. Generally, these can be used in double track layouts, or as you can see here, in single track layouts, to allow trains to meet here, so that you don't have delays in the network, so that you can schedule around this point, and the trains meet here. One train continues driving in this direction, the other one in this direction. Then we obviously have even more different things. There are quad track main lines. Essentially, here you have your tracks for your fast services. So in Great Britain, there would, for example, be express trains, intercity trains. In Germany, it would be Regionalexpresse, intercity ICs, and here you have your slow trains. So for example, the station for your stopping trains. So for example, S-Bahns or commuter trains, or Regionalbahns. Yeah, so basically, ideally, you would always double track. It just helps you a lot. It keeps a lot of headaches away from you, and it greatly expands capacity on your line. If your line is very heavily used, you need to quad track it at least to separate your slow service and fast services. And then in major cities, for example, like London, where is it? Let's, for example, take London Waterloo. Here you can see you actually have 8 distinct lines. So this is basically every single type of service separated out plus a bit more. Obviously, you don't do 8 tracks to the entire country, but you do it in, choke points where there are many lines combining together. But here, this is just a simple island platform bypass station, or a passing loop. And once again, well, I forgot that I did not have the platforms copied anymore. That also tends to happen a lot. So I can be quite forgetful sometimes, I'm sorry. And here we are. Yeah, we should also go to 2, so we actually have the correct texture and usage. And like so. And we completed the next, and with that we completed the next station. Now, we can now move on. And as you can see, we are slowly moving towards our goal. Now, this one is, I think, Duisburg-Meiderich Ost. But this one is actually one of the stations I'm not that certain about. I mean, I am certain about it, but I want to demonstrate something to you. If you ever need to find the name of a station, you should not use the game, because for some reason the game does not have integrated real station names. The data is there because it uses OpenStreetMap data, but it doesn't. So yeah, you always have this. If you go to here, for example, you have use automatic name. Now here it works, but it doesn't work everywhere. What I would love to have, because OpenStreetMap does have station names for pretty much every station, is there to be embedded in the game, in the data, the name of every station at the location where the station actually is, so that you could actually have the station names displayed properly without having to research them all. But since it isn't in the game, you take OpenStreetMap or OpenRailway Map, whatever you prefer, and you can just look up the name of the station there. So if you're not sure about what the station is called, or if you want to give it its real name, I know there are some people that don't do that. I don't know. You can look it up there. So this is Meiderich Ost. Like so. And now we talk about something different, because we have arrived at our first river. How the hell do you get across a river? That's a good question. And the answer to that is pretty simple. Just like in real life. Either you build a bridge or you build a tunnel. One of these two things it'll be. Now, obviously, you can do this by going height 1. And now we can just, I've already done this. Once again, you can press M. You can select, for example, this end, and you can just change its height. In this case, +1 is completely fine. And we cross the river. And then we go back to ground level. Now, obviously, this isn't everything that +1, -1 is used for. In fact, this is probably the most trivial thing it's used for, but not the most important. The more important thing it is used for is flyovers and fly-unders and yeah, whatever else stuff is there's a lot of different things. So yeah, if you're now asking the question, well, you talk about this flyover. What's a flyover? Well, I am glad you asked. Now, a flyover would essentially be something like this right here, where you have one piece of track. I mean, we will have to build this anyway, but I will just demonstrate it for now. For example, this is the track that goes above. Now, this track theoretically crosses the other one, like so. But that isn't really good, because now you have a massive choke point where a lot of trains would interfere with each other. So what you can instead do is you can select these tracks, put them at, for example, -1, and the other ones -1, and look at that. Now you have eliminated the collision. Now these tracks pass under the tracks going above. That's what a flyover is. Essentially, it allows you to just separate tracks more easily and with less collisions. We will see a lot more of them in the future. I will delete this because this is kind of sloppily done. Now, but we now have arrived at this, and actually, I now have to take my own advice and have a look at OpenStreetMap, because I actually have no idea what this station was called again. So let me just quickly have a look. Ah, okay, makes sense. Oh, by the way, I think we already forgot something. Yeah. So sometimes when you're building, you just straight up forget things. Like, for example, that we wanted all of these to be 120 meters long. And because I was talking so much, I actually forgot to make this platform 120 meters long. Yeah, fix that. Now we will do the same thing with here. So this platform is not long enough. Here's a road. So if you want to respect that road, so I think you want to, we just go to here and then go to 120 in the other direction. So Duisburg Obermeiderich. So, and here you can already see a possible upgrade, by the way, which we could do in the future if we decide to run more services here. This line used to be double track, and that isn't really surprising, given that there are a lot of commuters on this line, surprisingly. I don't know why, but there are. So, we've now completed all the stations up to this point. Now we need to talk about something that I personally hate, and I hate to explain it, because it's kind of difficult. We have to talk about basic signaling. So, in Nimby Rails there are signals, like this path signal. So, there are 6 different signal types. We have path signal, basically just a standalone block signal. We have a ballast. We will get to the ballast later. We have a one-way signal. This tells the train between 2 switches, or I think it's also a station platform, but I'm not that sure. But I think it's between 2 switches. What direction should the traffic flow? Pretty self-explanatory. No-way signals basically tells trains not go over this. Very important when you're building realistic track layouts, because sometimes trains will just YOLO choose a track all the time, and you can block it with this. Marker, this is for mods, bits or more likely scripts, I'm sorry. And platform train stop points. This is probably the most useless signal of them all. Essentially what it does is, if you place it on the track, it shortens the platform. Problem is, if I now create a line and I build this right here, like so, yeah, I can still select farther than this. So I am not that sure what it actually is supposed to do, because it sure as hell doesn't shorten the platform. I don't know. It's probably the most useless signal in the entire game. But the most important signal are the first three. One-way, block base, and path signal. This is just a path signal, but from a mod. The nice thing about this is Signals Plus. This is a script. You can download it from Steam Workshop. And it gives you these nice signals that actually have red and green coloring. So basically, if a section is not cleared, it's red. If the train can depart, it's green. Default Nimby doesn't have that. But functionally, it's the same as the normal path signal. Now, first you always put signals on your terminus stations, so that the train that stands here has a signal that controls it. Pretty important. Then, you know anything that is single track, where there is no double track, you don't signal at all. You just put an entry signal in front of the next station. So this little hat right here that you can see always shows you in which direction the train is coming from, that the signal works for. So in this case, this is from trains coming from Duisburg Ruhrort. They drive along here, hit this signal, and then this signal checks, okay, is this right here occupied or free? Now, we already talked about passing loops and passing platforms. Here we put one-way signals. I tend to never put one-way signals on my stations. There are people that do that, but it kind of screws you over when you have to do things like depoting and so later on, because then sometimes trains just take wonky routes. I always signal one-way signal before this, and also only when it's necessary. But here in this case, traffic should be all trains from Duisburg Ruhrort, halt at this platform, all trains from Oberhausen Hauptbahnhof, halt at this platform, which is why we place one-way signals here. So you always have to think about where will my traffic flow, and then we put one exit signal here, and we put one signal here. Basically, you always want to signal the exits of your stations as well, the directions the trains exit, like so. Obviously, we had an enter signal for the station here, so we also want an enter signal for the station here. Once again, this is completely single track. We don't need any platform, we don't need any signals here. This is also completely single track. And now we actually have to continue building. I am not the best at explaining signaling. If you actually want to understand signaling very well, there is a signaling guide on Steam. And if you want to take an in-depth dive and understand it properly, I understand it, I just can't explain it. That's the problem. It's kind of complicated. You should look at that guide, to be very frank. This is just the basics. Now, here we have the track. It comes in here towards Oberhausen Hauptbahnhof, and we put the entry signal here for this line right before the first switch. That would be here. For now, however, the only thing we actually care about is doing the platform where this train terminates. We don't care about anything else. That is here. We will build the rest of it later on. So we just built the first platform, which will be this one right here. Now, once again, we want to speed limit. Obviously, since this is a terminating track, we want to limit this track to 40 kilometers per hour. This is a pretty common speed for tracks that are terminating or have terminating trains frequently, at least in Germany. And here this track that we just added, we kind of want to put this at 80, probably. Once again, major stations don't have that fast through running tracks, mostly because of regulations. So this will be absolutely fine. Now we actually have to build the last platform. So we go into here. I know that this right here is a terminating buffer as well in real life, but we will do some upgrades in general in this save. Like, I will not follow completely one-to-one because that is boring after some time. Which is why we put this track at 80 and we then give the platform actually back the connection it used to have to this main trunk right here. I don't know why it doesn't have it anymore in real life, but it's Deutsche Bahn, so it probably was because it saved him 10 euros a year in maintenance costs. Yeah, probably something like that. So, here we just want to make this platform as long as we quite realistically can. We will elongate a lot of platforms on our way, and we make a new station. And this one is Oberhausen Hauptbahnhof. Now, we add the platform. Now, as you can see, since I have to flip for both sides of the platform, I just flip it and copy it again. And like so, you can see that building platforms, well, it might seem like a daunting task. First off, it really improves the looks of your stations. And second of all, yeah, building this one platform didn't even took me half a minute. So it isn't even that time consuming. So I would always recommend you add them. That would be it. After placing our signals for the entry and exit of our tracks, so we place them here, and we place them here and also here, because this will also in future be a platform. Then we put another entry signal here. We have now actually completed our first bit of track. And that already was the second episode. We have now learned a bunch about track building, how you efficiently can build track. Obviously, next episode we will focus on how you make a line and how to run a line. That will be the focus of next episode. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and see you in the next one. Oh, and if you enjoyed it, please subscribe. I know we already reached 10 subscribers with the last tutorial, which I am very proud of. Thank you all for subscribing, and hope you enjoy it.